koutou katoa, Mālo Leonasai, Chair, to our committees, those here today and those who are beyond this room. If I asked you to tell me who you are, what would you say? Would you tell me where you were raised, the language your grandparents spoke, the place where your ancestors called home? Would you even know? Let me tell you who I am. I am Matalaoa, a Samoan Tamaitai, carrying the name and markings of my ancestors. I am of Sātalo Wharealili, Matamata Nofo Whalatai, and the pristine shores of Sāwhotu and Manase in Sava'i. I am of my people, and they are of me. And I am of Aotearoa. My brothers were born here. The father who raised me is of Ngāpuhi. I am Pakeha, of an ancestry I do not fully know. I take these few moments to tell you my story, because this bill seeks to erase the story of this nation. And who are we without this story? Who will we be without our identity? My birth placed me in a small percentage of people in the world that can claim they are Indigenous to their land. We make up about 6% of the global population, yet represent the majority of the world's cultural diversity. You do not have to be an expert to know that in every region of the world, Indigenous people are concentrated in the lowest income, poorest outcomes, and shortest lifespans. We share a story of colonization, stolen languages, stripped identities, and displacement. That is our story. It carries pain, but it also tells of our resilience. And with every generation, we hope we will be the last to fight for our rights. When the rangatira of Aotearoa and the Crown signed Te Tiriti o Waitangi in 1840, it stood apart from how other nations have engaged Indigenous peoples. It set a precedent and served as a beacon to the world that Indigenous and non-Indigenous people would work in harmony to build a nation. This bill turns us away from that vision of nation building. Masking as progress, it signals that Māori and all Indigenous peoples have no place in the future, that tangata whenua have no voice in the modern age. I am here to say, from Standing Rock to Gaza, from the Amazon to West Papua in Australia, Indigenous people have survived the worst humanity have had to offer. And despite efforts to erase us, we are still here. Aotearoa is a young nation with a bold spirit. Our nation is not afraid of rolling our sleeves up and taking on challenging issues. But this bill has created a climate where people feel uneasy, angry, or even afraid to open discussions. A discussion is needed, and our nation is deserving of a process that empowers how we can view ourselves within Te Tiriti. And if the authors of this bill's intent was to help facilitate that dialogue, it has fallen far short. Instead of offering clarity and a safe place to gather as communities, this bill has left vagueness and theoretical concepts that are so detached from the lived realities of the people they seek to govern. The authors of this bill claim that this is not a conversation about race. They are right. It is about privilege. This is not about a special status of Māori. It is about long-standing advantages that have let some flourish while others have had to fight to survive. By honouring Te Tiriti, we can create better outcomes for all. Across Aotearoa, we have seen Māori not obstructing, but leading development where governments have often failed. Māori-led agriculture is restoring the land. Kura kaupapa students are outpacing national averages. Māori enterprises are driving economic growth. This is a story this bill wants us to ignore, risking the very models that could sustain Aotearoa in the years to come. Everyone in this chamber will be now very familiar with the principles of Te Tiriti. But what are the principles of good governance? What of integrity, accountability, shared decision-making? This bill is not just a breach of Te Tiriti, it is a breach of good leadership. A government that silences Indigenous voices is governing with an agenda for division. Is this the story we want to tell about Aotearoa? I reject this bill, and I challenge you all to do the same. This is not just about upholding Te Tiriti and Indigenous rights. It is about all of us and our belonging. Where do we fit if our leadership states that there's only room for one voice? That is what this bill represents. Let us not shrink from our obligations and commitments that have shaped our nation's identity. Let us restore faith in good governance and not measure progress by what we erase, but by what we have honoured. Indigenous and non-Indigenous together have a place in the future. And when our descendants tell our stories, will they say that because of today, the future was made better for all who call Aotearoa New Zealand home? So for mai ia manuia.
Thank you, Matalaoa. Thank you for being with us this afternoon, for putting on your submission. That's very nice to see you and very gratefully received by the committee, so thank you. Okay, folks, we are now on to our next.
Well, I have to be honest, that's a good submission to finish off the Treaty Principle Bill submission marathon series.
Yeah, I always love hearing Pacific people coming through in solidarity with Māori, and you don't always have people saying, hey, let's look at us all as Indigenous, because obviously we all have our own unique identities, and some folks in the Pacific don't necessarily identify as Indigenous, and Katie pai tēnā, that's all good. But for her to draw out and say, let's actually look at the big picture. Indigenous people are 6% of the world's population. Why would we not protect that? Why would we not look after them? Because we have been deliberately you know, almost made culturally extinct or literally extinct in many parts of the world. So we need to
Yeah.
protect Indigenous people. Yeah, I love that she brought that to the table because that's really the bigger picture and what it's all about. And Te Tiriti is what protects Indigenous people. Te Tiriti is what both invited manuhiri here to be able to come and set up a government, and it's what enables Māori to continue to have the political authority and the identity that we have. And one doesn't need to be over the other, right?
Yeah.
Just going back to the starting korero about partnership, it buzzes me out that the right wing is saying there's no such thing as partnership. Te Tiriti never talks about partnership, and it's like, wow,
I wonder
you
what they
can't
would.
even see a world where we're equals. You can't even imagine, like, partnership is being nice.
Yeah, I mean, what would they
Let's
sit
be
here
very
and say if
generous.
they have a mortgage document that's a partnership with a bank for a loan?
Yeah, they can understand that part, but not this part. So yeah, I mean, there's Māori out there who would say, "Oh, actually, I don't sign up for partnership either." Like Māori should have full control of, the whole of Aotearoa.
Hmm.
Partnership is a very generous offer to manuhiri, to guests who have come here, to be able to create their own systems of governance. Unfortunately, they use those systems of governance to be able to destroy ours and make this place their own, and that's where we've got to this problem now.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah. That being
Yeah.
said, one thing I've really appreciated about this process, even though I didn't agree with it, I didn't agree with the bill going to select committee. But I have absolutely loved seeing the showcasing of so many people who care about Te Tiriti o Waitangi from all different kinds of backgrounds, and it just really shows that actually the movement for mana motuhake, the movement for honouring Te Tiriti is really, really
Hmm.
strong. It's the
Yeah.
strongest that it's ever been in our country, and that's what matters, right? That's
It's
actually what
it
matters.
certainly has opened up a lot there. Like we're planning for later in the year for under our It's in the Ballot umbrella for local body elections. And one of the things that this has highlighted is how we've got the strong pro-Māori ward, anti-Māori ward divide. And this is going to be something that is out there. And I've seen a group that is about, and this is on the Kapiti Coast, about trying to expose things and trying to expose corruption and their own misunderstanding that I had to explain about Māori wards. Like they're hitting out at the council for not following Simeon Brown's referendum ward bill, but their interpretation of it was very different to what the bill actually said. In turn, like I basically put a whole fact check thing in there that 5 sitting councillors and the mayor personally liked my comment on the community group because it literally spelled out. It's like, and trying to sit there and say to them, just because we're having the referendum in 2025 doesn't mean the Māori ward suddenly vanishes on the day. You still have, whoever gets elected still has to work with that Māori ward councillor for the next 3 years. And then their position gets disestablished at the 2028 general election, local bodies after another representation review has been done in order to work out the seat proportionality. But there's going to be so much of that education because I wouldn't be surprised if we have councillor candidates going, yeah, I'm voting against Māori wards because now I have to work for them around the table. It's like, how are you going to cope for the next 3 years?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's interesting you should say that because Action Station will be campaigning for Māori wards this year. So
Yeah.
love to keep talking. But
well, you know my producer's phone number.
But I think the other thing is that the tide is shifting.
Yeah.
43 out of 45, councils all voted in favour to keep their Māori wards and bear the cost of these referendums, and they didn't have to do that.
Well, actually, many of those councils, the referendum was the cheaper option. And that's what a lot of people don't realise is, don't have to referendum, you save money, but your representation review costs more. Now, I'm a little bit more lenient on Upper Hutt than I am on other councils. And the reason why I say I'm more lenient is Upper Hutt don't have wards. So they already had a bigger problem to introduce it. And in the referendum part just basically said, actually, this is going to cause more problems than what it's worth. And we don't want to go to this effort to have to literally undo it one election later. So that was something so that's why I'm a little bit more lenient on Upper Hutt than other councils, because Upper Hutt has never had wards, I don't think ever. And the biggest problem they had in Upper Hutt was a good proportion of population was transient with both the prison and the military base. And half of a council position population quota was based on transient population. Yep. So that was the biggest issue. Well, where do you put it, especially when the prison and the military base are across the road from each other? Yeah. Well, we're going to make a move. I suggest everyone listen to this coming up song, and we'll see back at 8 o'clock with Camilla and back Laura.
Awesome.
And thank
Thanks,
you for being with us, Cassie.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook.